good. So 32 days. 32 days. Okay, we got some business to do. All right. 32 days. And we know we will do it. And this is going to be a very tight race until the very end. This is going to be a very tight race until the very end. We are the underdog, and we know we have some hard work ahead.
This is my video update on this Saturday afternoon, October the 5th, coming to you from Ayia Napa, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Stoltenberg's exit interview, the first interview that Stoltenberg has given since his retirement as the Secretary General of NATO, replaced by Mark Rutte. And he gave this interview to the Financial Times. And the cover of this Financial Times article / interview has the title, Former NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg. So far, we have called Putin's bluff, the Norwegian politician on his decade as a KGB contact crossing Russia's red lines, and what comes next for Ukraine. And the image of Stoltenberg is very Joker-esque, right? It looks like the promo poster for Joker 2. But that's what the Financial Times decided to go with. So Stoltenberg, in this exit interview, he said a couple of interesting things. One thing that he said was very interesting because it gives us some insight as to how the collective West is seeing Project Ukraine wrap up. And it's something that I believe we have been talking about quite a lot on this channel, and I don't think it's going to come as much of a surprise to you as I go through it, but it's still very interesting nonetheless. Stoltenberg, he mentioned in this interview, it was a lot about Project Ukraine, by the way, and he mentioned in this interview how Kiev was supposed to fall in 3 days. They're never going to let that one go, are they? Kiev was going to fall in 3 days. I wonder if Mark Milley, who made up the whole Kiev in 3 days narrative, I wonder if he realized how much life that narrative would take on. Kiev was going to fall in 3 days. Made up by Mark Milley and being repeated even up to today, 3 years later. They are still repeating the Kiev 3 days narrative. Anyway, he said that it was supposed to fall in 3 days. It didn't fall in 3 days. This is a great victory for Ukraine, a great victory for NATO and the alliance. And he also talked about how Zelensky, during the beginning of the special military operation, Zelensky was hiding in a bunker in Kiev, and he was calling NATO and I imagine he was calling Stoltenberg. I don't know, but he was contacting NATO, urging NATO to put together a no-fly zone, to enforce a no-fly zone over Ukraine. And Stoltenberg told the Financial Times that he couldn't do this. He wasn't able to enforce a no-fly zone over Ukraine. This was during the beginning of the special military operation. We know now that through documentation, through the actual agreement, that what Russia was trying to do was that they were trying to force Zelensky into a negotiation, and they were very close to getting it. We know the story. Boris Johnson flying to Kiev. We actually have the agreement that Ukraine negotiators signed, as published by the New York Times, and Stoltenberg in the interview with the Financial Times was talking about how Russia was looking to take out Zelensky, which I don't buy it, because why would Russia try to take out Zelensky when they needed Zelensky to sign the agreement that Ukraine negotiators had initialed in Istanbul? And we also know from former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett that Zelensky's life was not in danger. Zelensky called Naftali Bennett in a panic, thinking that Putin was going to take him out. And Naftali Bennett, he called up Putin, and Putin told Naftali Bennett, don't worry, he can come out of the bunker. We're not looking to take him out. And Naftali Bennett called Zelensky and told Zelensky this, and then Zelensky left his bunker, and he filmed an Instagram video in the streets of Kiev and talked about how brave and tough he was. And then he came up with that line, I don't need a ride, I need bullets or artillery or weapons, something like that. I don't need that, I need weapons, or something like that. That was his line that he came up with, and Mark Milley formulated the Kiev in 3 days thing. Anyway, we know the narratives that were created after Boris sabotaged the peace agreement. But the most interesting thing that Stoltenberg said, in my opinion, in this article was where he revealed the NATO exit plan for Project Ukraine. And basically, the exit plan is that Ukraine, that Zelensky, they have to accept the loss of territories. That's going to be a hard one for Zelensky to swallow. Impossible for Zelensky to do. If he were to do that, the Banderites would take him out if he were to do that. But he has to accept the loss of territory, and then it would be an entry into NATO, and that would be the victory that would be declared. A democratic, functioning, viable Ukraine, Western-oriented Ukraine that is making its way towards the European Union and eventually into NATO. Yes, it would lose territory, but it would remain intact as a democracy, according to collective West officials and according to the many statements from Stoltenberg. He has actually said this before in the past, that a victory for Ukraine would be a Ukraine that's intact and a functioning democracy. So that's the victory plan, according to Stoltenberg. His examples for such a thing, for such a scenario, was Finland. He talked about Japan as well, and then he also brought up West Germany and how West Germany entered NATO. He talked about how the dispute, the conflict between Japan and Russia, the dispute over the Kuril Islands, how that happened, and then he talked about Finland and how Finland had lost 10% of its territory after its war with Russia, but Finland became a viable, thriving, intact democracy with safe borders. And a good relationship with Russia, by the way, which Stoltenberg did not mention in this video, in this interview. Here is what Stoltenberg said about Finland. I ask what he would propose to Zelensky. He demurs, then suggests a historical comparison. Finland fought a brave war against the Soviet Union in 1939. They imposed much bigger costs on the Red Army than expected, he says. The war ended with them giving up 10% of the territory, but they got a secure border. But that came with Finnish neutrality until it joined NATO last year. Ukraine wants immediate NATO membership. Anathema to Putin. That is what the Financial Times is saying, which actually the final paragraph from the Financial Times says it all, which is that Russia will never accept any part of NATO, of Ukraine in NATO. Never going to happen. So in the case of Finland, 85 years later, Finland was neutral, yes, was Western oriented, but had a very good relationship with Russia, a stable relationship with Russia. And 85 years later, it got sucked into NATO. But Ukraine, this entire conflict, is about Ukraine entering NATO. Much of the conflict is about Ukraine entering NATO. So Russia's never going to accept this type of scenario. But this is what NATO has on their minds, right? Accept territorial loss, and then you can enter the alliance. And Russia's just going to sit back and accept it. Not going to happen. Russia said they will never accept it. They're not listening. The collective West never listens to what Russia actually says. I can never quite understand it. Russia is very straightforward in what they say. They're very straightforward. But the collective West, over so many decades, refuses to listen. Anyway, that is Stoltenberg. That's the interview, the exit interview from the Financial Times. And sticking with Project Ukraine, Estonia Intel, if you believe Estonia Intel, if there is such a thing, Estonia Intel, they are saying that the key supply logistics hub of Pokrovsk is going to fall to Russia by the end of 2024. This is the first time where I am in agreement with Estonia Intel, the first and only time. I didn't even know there was such a thing. But I agree with Estonia intelligence. Pokrovsk will fall by the end of 2024, maybe the first month of 2025, but Pokrovsk will indeed be captured by the Russian military. In the Kursk direction, the Russian Ministry of Defense, they claim that Ukraine suffered 20,000 casualties in the Kursk direction since they decided to invade Russia. A very stupid thing to go into Russia, and it has cost the Ukraine military dearly, their very best soldiers, 20,000 casualties in Kursk. And there are still soldiers, Ukraine military, that are trapped in Kursk and that the Russian military is annihilating every single day. I believe in September, the Russian Ministry of Defense, they came out with a number of 70,000 casualties in 1 month for the Ukraine military. These are all numbers from the Russian Ministry of Defense. So you may believe these numbers, you may not want to believe these numbers. These are the numbers that the Russian Ministry of Defense is putting out there. 20,000 in Kursk and 70,000 casualties in the month of September for the Ukraine military. Poland is going to be training Ukrainian men living in Poland who are going to volunteer to join the Ukraine military. They will receive training from the Polish military. That was announced the other day. Poland ready to start training volunteers for Ukrainian Legion. So the Ukrainian consulate in Lublin, they have started a recruitment drive. They are looking to find Ukrainian men in Poland ready to join the fight and ready to join the Ukraine military. And they will be trained by the Polish military inside of Poland. It seems like Poland is helping the collapse of Ukraine along. I don't know. Maybe it's in my head. But Poland's going to stroll into the west of Ukraine unopposed. That's a scenario that could very likely happen. Anyway, that's the news coming out of Poland. Coming out of Slovakia, Fico, he has said that when the conflict is over, when the war wraps up, Slovakia is more than ready to reestablish a relationship with Russia. This is not going to make the overlords in Brussels very happy. They are going to be very upset with Fico and this announcement. But you know what? What Fico is saying out loud, many EU countries are not saying out loud, but they are going to reestablish a relationship, or they're going to try to reestablish a relationship with Russia. Even countries that have been placed on Russia's enemy list, Slovakia and Hungary, are not on the Russian enemy list, but just about every other country in the European Union, including Cyprus, including Greece, they are on the Russian enemy list. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to reestablish a relationship with Russia once the conflict is over. Let me read you a Twitter post from the Serious Report. Fico stated that Slovakia is seeking to restore relations with Russia once the war ends. You can guarantee they won't be the only one. Yep, I agree with that. So do we have anything else to talk about with regards to Project Ukraine? I think that is everything. The situation on the front line for Zelensky is awful. Every morning I pull up my my Twitter X feed, and I go onto Telegram, and it seems like another village or town or region has been captured by Russia. So the front in the Donbass is collapsing for Zelensky, which is why the collective West is trying to push Zelensky into some sort of a negotiation. And that is why the collective West, they are starting to put together their victory narrative. If only long-range missiles were given to Kiev, we would have won, or at least we would have forced Putin to the negotiating table, and we would have had leverage over Russia. And yes, Ukraine is going to have to accept some territorial loss, but it remains a democracy that will now be entering NATO. That's what they're hoping for. That's the best case scenario for NATO and the collective West, which Russia is not going to agree to. In Beirut, Israel has announced that they killed another Hezbollah commander. I believe this is the commander in charge of all of the communications for Hezbollah. Mohammed Rashid Sakafi was killed in an airstrike in Beirut on Thursday, the Israeli ministry has said. And it does look like with every commander that Israel is killing, Hezbollah does not appear to be affected, at least the fighting capabilities of Hezbollah, because the reports that we're getting, even from collective West media, for example, Fox News, they even talked about this the other day. The ground operations in southern Lebanon are tough for the IDF. It's not going well. That's the sense that I'm getting as I read articles, including articles and reports from collective West media. Hezbollah is putting up a very tough fight against the Israeli forces. So it seems as the command has been annihilated, it has not really affected the fighting capabilities of Hezbollah, at least the ground forces for Hezbollah. And this is as Israel has air superiority. The ground operations do not appear to be going well. That's the sense that I'm getting. But there's still a lot of fog of war. A lot of fog of war. And the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post, they are actually reporting that the missile strikes from Iran that happened a couple of days ago, the 180, 200 missiles launched into Israel, they did big damage. That is what the Wall Street Journal is reporting. And this is what the Washington Post is also reporting. Collective West Media running stories saying that the missile strikes into Israel were actually very, very effective and hit the targets that they were aiming to hit and did a lot of damage. In the case of the Washington Post, they claim that 25 missiles got through and hit their intended targets. So Haaretz, the Israeli publication Haaretz, they are reporting that the Israeli military is preparing a very big strike against Iran in the next couple of days. Many outlets are saying that October 7th is when Israel's going to launch a big retaliation against Iran, but I think that's just speculation at this moment, but we'll see. We will see. The Biden White House, they are, at least publicly Biden, let's say Biden and some of his closest aides, they are trying to urge Israel to not escalate with Iran, to retaliate, to absolutely retaliate, but retaliate in such a manner so that a wider war and escalation is avoided. But CNN, they are reporting that Israel is not listening to Biden. Big surprise there. Netanyahu is not listening to the Biden White House. CNN is reporting that Israel has given no assurances it won't target Iran's nuclear facilities. Top State Department official tells CNN the Biden White House is begging Netanyahu to not go after nuclear facilities in Iran. There's a lot of doubts if Israel could even destroy the nuclear facilities in Iran. A lot of doubt if that is possible. It would most likely need the United States, the military muscle of the United States, to try and destroy the nuclear facilities in Iran, and that would be a huge escalation. That would be a wider war in the Middle East if Israel goes after the nuclear facilities. Trump, he said today that Israel should absolutely go after Iran's nuclear facilities. Let me get you Trump's quote. They asked him, "What do you think about Iran? Would you hit Iran?" And he goes, "As long as they don't hit the nuclear stuff. That's the thing you want to hit, right? I mean, it's the biggest risk we have, nuclear weapons," Trump said. When they asked him that question, the answer should have been hit the nuclear first and worry about the rest later, Trump added. So Trump was asked about Biden's statement that he's trying to get Netanyahu not to hit the nuclear facilities in Iran, and Trump said that Biden's answer should have been hit the nuclear facilities. That's the statement from Trump. That would be World War III, or definitely a big, wider war in the Middle East. So CNN, in their article, they are saying that Israel has not given assurances to the Biden administration that targeting Iran's nuclear facilities is off the table in retaliation for the Iranian ballistic missile strikes earlier this week. A top U.S. State Department official told CNN on Friday. Notice this is coming from the State Department. The State Department, Anthony Blinken absolutely wants escalation. The official added that it is really hard to tell if Israel will use the anniversary of Hamas October 7 attacks to retaliate. Quote, we hope and expect to see some wisdom as well as strength, but as you guys know, no guarantees, the official said when asked by CNN if Israel has assured the U.S. that Iran's nuclear sites are off the table. Keep in mind that Biden, the Biden White House, and Biden himself, they are running with the narrative, the claim that if Netanyahu goes hard against Iran and escalates with Iran, say he goes after the nuclear facilities, then according to Biden, in a Politico article that came out a couple of days ago, Iran is doing this Israel in part is doing this in order to help Trump get reelected. So Netanyahu, if he goes hard against Iran, he's doing this because he hates Biden and he's trying to help Trump get reelected. That's what Biden is saying publicly. Privately, I think we all kind of know what's going on with the Biden White House. The Biden White House, they lost any influence over Netanyahu when they decided to give him a blank check a year ago. That's when they lost any leverage and any influence over Netanyahu. And Netanyahu, he has been cashing in the blank checks from Biden nonstop. But that's CNN. CNN and an unnamed State Department official. Let's talk about some clown worlds and we will wrap this video up. So there are rumors that Zelensky has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Keep in mind that the Nobel Peace Prize, it keeps its nominees secret for 50 years. There are rumors, leaked actually from Ukraine media, that Zelensky has been nominated. It wouldn't surprise me if he's been nominated. From what I understand, it's not too difficult to nominate someone for a Nobel Peace Prize. But this is not confirmed, and accounts that are posting this on Twitter that are saying that Zelensky has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, they are being community noted, and the community note states that nominees are kept secret for 50 years. So we don't know if he has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, but those are the rumors. Those are the rumors. And the clown world for today is Milei, Javier Milei. When he was speaking at the UN last week, he was actually plagiarizing a speech from, at least this is the claim. This is the claim even from the Telegraph, that when Milei was speaking at the UN last week, he plagiarized a speech from the TV show The West Wing, a speech that the president from the show The West Wing, Martin Short, he played the president. I believe the president's name was Jeb Bartlett, if I'm not mistaken. And Martin Short, he gives this speech in a West Wing episode, and it looks like Milei, they lifted this speech, translated it into Spanish, and this is the speech that Milei gave, according to the Telegraph, during his UN Assembly speech. Unbelievable, man. They're all actors. That's what it looks like. This is from the Telegraph. Watch, Javier Milei plagiarizes West Wing in speech to UN. Argentinian president appears to lift almost verbatim dialogue in unlikely coincidence, as communication advisor is big fan of TV series. All right. If you can't come up with your own speech, why not? Why not plagiarize a speech from the West Wing? Anyway, that's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. Pick up some merch like the t-shirt I am wearing today in this video. The link is in the description box down below. Take care.